Hello everybody and welcome to the next video from my series Quick Thoughts On, in which I always talk about different stories from the rich Star Trek universe. 30 years and a bunch of weeks ago the next episode of Star Trek The Next Generation premiered. It was called Up the Long Ladder, and these are my honest opinions about it. This episode is weird. I can't decide if I love it or hate it. It's written by Melinda Snodgrass, but it is much more chaotic, for a lack of a better term, than the masterpiece The Measure of a Man. It starts on the bridge with Worf behaving strangely, but we have no time for exploring him because we cut to Picard and Riker listening to some strange 1970s arcade sound effects, which Riker immediately recognizes as an old SOS signal. So he's an expert in audio signals now? Sure, why not? Apparently this old distress signal has been used by the European hegemony in the 22nd century. See, the European Union will transform into something else. I wonder if the UK was still trying to leave it in the 22nd century. They didn't know there is any kind of an Earth colony, but that's normal because after the Third World War, nobody expected the records to be intact. Anyway, whoever sent the signal needs help, which means that the Enterprise can beat the hero ship again, but before that, Worf collapses. So Dr. Pulaski examines him only to find out that he has Klingon measles. He's embarrassed by the fact that he has a children's disease, so Dr. Pulaski lies to Picard about Worf's condition to respect his privacy. This comes just one episode after the same Dr. Pulaski disrespected Captain Picard's privacy and told everybody about his medical condition. Does she simply like Worf more? Or did the writers not talk to each other during the writing of these scripts? Worf is of course grateful, so he brings her tea, and they make the scene of them drinking Klingon tea appear to be the most important thing in this episode. So what happens with this plotline next? Absolutely nothing, of course. They start a subplot and immediately abandon it. They don't even mention it ever again. So why was this in the episode? To waste my time? I always had a problem with it, but after Season 2 was released on Blu-ray, we finally got the answer. This is simply a case of shitty editing. The Worf subplot was an actual subplot, but all of its scenes were deleted. Some of them can be found on the Blu-ray. I just don't see the reason why did they delete the following scenes, but kept the intro scenes in the episodes, but I don't have to understand everything. Back in the main plot, Data manages to find out that they are searching for the ship SS Mariposa, commanded by a gentleman named Walter Granger. The crew consisted of members of a neo-transcendentalism movement or something like that, which is a fancy word for describing people who have decided to live like it's 1899. They soon find out them living on a colony on Ringloid 5, and they need help because of their star. Details are not important. The important thing is that Riker has to go down there and persuade them to let themselves beam on board. So when O'Brien beams them to the ship, his face shows an honest shock. He beams a huge amount of hay, farm animals, and a group of people who can be best described as Amish people played by Irishmen. Or humanoid versions of Irish stereotypes. They look like they're taken from a Simpsons parody version of Irish people. Every single time I watch this episode I expect to see some leprechauns, but no, we at least get to see savage alcoholics. I heard online that a lot of Irish fans were offended by it, but honestly, I don't care if something is offensive as long as it makes me laugh. That includes stuff which makes fun of me or people like me. Have you guys seen the 2005 horror movie Hostel? It has shown Slovakia as what Trump would call a shithole country, suffering from high criminality, filth, war, and prostitution. You know, what I felt when I've seen the movie? I thought it's hilarious. And the fact that our politicians were offended made it even funnier for me. So now, the fact that this episode is offensive to Irish people will not affect my rating of it. To be honest, I actually like them, and don't see the depiction of them as something extremely negative. We are introduced to the two leaders, Danito Odell and his daughter Brema Odell, and honestly, I think Danito is a lovable alcoholic. Yes, that's a sentence I just said. And I absolutely love the character of Brema. She is the ultimate strong female character, before the term became an insult. I love her attitude in this episode, and because she's attractive, she likes Riker immediately, and he doesn't know how to say no to a woman who basically offers herself to him. So yeah, while Riker starts having some private fun with the main female lead, her father tells to Picard that, by the way, there is a second colony. So yes, there are two colonies, one of them consisted of alcoholic Irishmen, and the second one consisted of scientists. The Enterprise is soon greeted by the leader of the second colony, Mr. Wilson Granger, who is the Prime Minister of Mariposa. When they beam down, they find out something interesting. They see just three types of people: generic white guy, Bonnie from Knight Rider, and Eddie Murphy, but every one of them is there multiple times. After their ship crash-landed, only 5 of the people survived, so they cloned themselves. And they still clone themselves, but they have a problem. Every new generation of clones is a copy of a copy of a copy, which means that every new generation has more and more defects. To eliminate this replicative fading, Granger asks them for tissue samples. Riker is shocked by the idea that they want to clone them, and therefore this idea is abandoned. Why didn't they ask the other crew members again? How do they know that nobody would like to be cloned? If somebody asked me for DNA samples, I wouldn't care. I would maybe give it to them. So Granger asks them if they could at least send them some technicians to repair their failing equipment. A team led by Riker, Pulaski, and Geordi beams down to do their stuff. When they end, Pulaski and Riker go to the Prime Minister. He asks them for the last time if they won't change their minds. When their response is negative, again, they get shot, stunned, and pulled off screen. Geordi arrives there too, but Granger pretends that he has no clue where Riker or Pulaski are. So Geordi leaves, and after he returns to the Enterprise, he goes directly to sickbay. He meets there Riker and Pulaski, who apparently have no clue what happened. So what? Did they simply wake up in sickbay? Or how did they appear on the Enterprise? I'm trying to understand what's going on. How can they not remember that they were kidnapped? Where did they wake up? Pulaski immediately scans their bodies and finds out that both she and Will miss some epithelial cells. How exactly does she find it out? How much time has passed between the extraction and now? Anyway, the weirdest part of the episode happens. The 3 of them beam down to a lab, where they find a bunch of clones made of both Riker and Pulaski. Will looks at them and you can see the anger in his face, so yes, this will be a huge moral problem for Riker, who will now have to live with the fact that he has been cloned. This could be a very interesting and great source for drama, or he could simply take his phaser out and vaporize his clone. I'm sorry, but what the fuck? Will Riker has just turned into a dangerous psychopath. What was Melinda thinking? Seriously, this came out of nowhere. So what does Pulaski think? Will looks at her, she just silently nods, so he vaporizes also her clone. Wow, I actually don't know what to say. Is that supposed to be some commentary about abortion? They get caught by the clones and nothing happens to them. Why? Didn't they commit a pretty serious crime right now? Why is this episode trying to persuade us that Granger is the bad guy? Why am I on the side of the villain? Thankfully the episode ends soon, the Bringloids need a place to live, the Mariposians need new DNA, so they agree to take the Bringloid to their society and to start reproducing in a more normal way. And Brema has a good point. Why didn't they ask the women? They expect the women to have at least 3 children with 3 different men, and don't even ask them if they agree with that. But as a true leader, she decides to make a sacrifice for their people and agree. And the fact that Granger is the Prime Minister and appears to be wealthy helps her to decide who she should be interested in. This episode is a mess. It starts with a very interesting plotline, Worf's illness. How will it affect him? But then they simply decide to ignore it. Then it suddenly changes to a comedy with the Irish alcoholics. Then it suddenly changes into a proper hard sci-fi story. Then again it suddenly gets much darker with all of the killings, and then it just ends. The whole thing is a mess. I didn't hate it, I don't love it. This is one of the episodes in which I would honestly love to see a proper extended version, because the deleted scenes which were added to the Blu-ray help the story a lot. But if they edited them out, it means that this stuff never happened. I know that this episode will be probably offensive to a lot of people, and for different reasons. It is, to say it politely, politically incorrect. I mostly don't care. My main problem is the casual murdering of the clones and the overall messiness. On my standard scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is complete garbage, 10 is a masterpiece, and 5 is just average, I would give it exactly that, 5 out of 10. I think it's actually much better than I remembered it. I remembered this episode as one of the bad ones. And as far as I know, it's not a very popular episode between the fans. But I don't hate it as much as many other people. I think that 5 is fair for this one. But as always, these were just my opinions. Let me know, what did you think about this episode? Did you love it, hate it, or do you agree with my average rating? Let me know down in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button. And if you have some free time, feel free to check any of the other videos on my channel. You should see some links on screen right now. Thank you very much for watching despite my complete inability to speak today, and see you in a couple of days with my video about the next episode of The Next Generation called Manhunt. Thanks and bye.